So this video is about using adjustable volume micropipettes. So the first step is to gather your supplies according to our practice lab exercise. So that includes the disposable pipette tips of 3 different sizes to match the different sizes of the adjustable volume micropipettes. It includes your microcentrifuge tube racks. It includes some microcentrifuge tubes, such as your 1.5 mil microfuge tubes and your strip tubes, and a piece of parafilm which I like to fold up into a W shape to better hold my droplets of liquid. So we will need a drop of food coloring on our wax to practice with. We will need a microcentrifuge tube with some water to practice with, and one of your sterile strip tubes to transfer water into. Alright, so the first step is to choose the correct micropipette and set the desired volume. So the first volume I'm going to pipette is 8 microliters. So I choose a P10 and set it to 0.80. The second step is to select the correct size disposable tip. So for this pipette, it is the smallest tips. So you attach, and then be sure the tip doesn't come in contact with anything so it does not become contaminated. Third step is to aspirate your sample, to pull up your liquid up into that tip. So I'm going to suck up some water out of a microcentrifuge tube by pressing to the first stop. So the first stop is where the plunger starts to show some resistance. I'm not going to press all the way to the bottom because that's not the measured volume. The correct measurement is at that first stop, and you can lift out the liquid, and then to eject the liquid from the tip, you press all the way down past that first stop. So, press down to the first stop to aspirate the sample. Tip goes into the liquid. Pull the liquid up into the tip, and I'm going to move that droplet of water into my strip tube. So to dispense my sample, I'm going to press down on the plunger all the way past that first stop so that all the liquid comes out. And I will keep the plunger depressed as I remove my tip from the liquid, and only when it is clear of the liquid will I release the plunger. And the last step is to eject your disposable tip. Right, so we don't want to cross-contaminate any samples. You change tips every time you change liquids. So I'm going to repeat the steps. And this time I'm going to select a volume of 1 microliter. So step 1 is to choose the correct micropipette. It is again the P10, but this time I'm going to set it to 0.10 to be able to suck up 1 microliter. Step 2 is to attach the correct size tip. Step 3 is to aspirate my sample. So I'm going to pull up the food coloring, but this time the plunger moves a tiny fraction of the distance that it did before. I'm sucking up a lot less liquid. But I want to find that first stop, and that's the measured stop. You do not want to press all the way down, because you will not measure the correct amount. So to aspirate my sample to the first stop, and then I place the tip into the food coloring, and slowly lift up to pull up the sample. So there is 1 microliter of food coloring. And I'm going to dispense my sample into the water in my strip tube. So I'm going to add the food coloring directly into the liquid that's already in the strip tube. So I'm going to place the tip down at the bottom where the liquid is. I'm going to depress the plunger to dispense my sample. And this time I'm going to press all the way to the bottom so that all the liquid comes out of the tip. And I will keep it depressed all the way to the bottom as I lift the tip out and until I am clear of the solution. And then I will finally release the plunger. Last step was to eject the disposable tip. Okay, so that's our practice exercise for using adjustable volume micropipettes. The last step is to go ahead and clear your lab bench. Right, so your consumables can go into the waste container. All the rest of your supplies go back into your lab drawer. And be sure and put away your sterile supplies so they don't get contaminated before future labs.